All right, guys, we are in video 5 of 5. We have made it to the very last video in our IUL Bootcamp series. I've really lost my voice at this point in time. I need some water, but I'm going to tough it through and finish it up. All right, in this last video, we will be talking about NLG National Life Group. So NLG is usually our Hail Mary IUL carrier, meaning you've exhausted all your options. You've tried America, you've tried Mutual of Omaha, you've tried Ethos, and they got declined across the board. So you go to NLG. The reason we like NLG as the Hail Mary carrier is if you look at the underwriting guidelines, they typically have the most leniency in regards to health conditions. Meaning, for example, I've been able to get clients who had type 2 diabetes, high A1C levels, approved with NLG, who got declined across the board for Americo, Mutual, and Ethos, but they got approved for NLG. The only reason we do not like using NLG is because they take forever to approve people. And if I'm being honest, they typically don't even approve people. Like my Hail Marys, I've probably submitted maybe 100 NLG applications just to see if a client can get approved, and because they've been declined through Americo, Mutual, and Ethos. Out of those 100 policies or 100 submitted applications, I'd say maybe 7 or 8 were actually approved because, NLG does have more lenient underwriting, but it's not a foolproof method. In addition to that, those 7 or 8 people that got approved, it took them literally like a month to get approved because NLG's underwriting process is extremely slow. Very different from Ethos, Americo, and Mutual of Omaha, how they have simplified issue products with instantaneous decision. NLG does not really have an instantaneous decision product. When you submit an application with NLG, they are going to take weeks to approve or decline that person because they take a hard look at their medical complications, their doctor visits, their MIB report, everything like that. That's why they're more open to approving people because they're more meticulous and at what they're looking at, and they take a much harder look compared to Mutual, Americo, and Ethos, but they do take much longer. So you got to really weigh the pros and cons. Sometimes it's really not even worth it getting someone in IUL because they're more than likely going to get declined. And if they do get approved, after a month and a half of going back and forth with the carrier, typically clients don't even want the policy anymore. They're not even interested anymore. But NLG really is the Hail Mary of IULs. Just know it's going to take forever to get the client approved if they even get approved. But let's jump into it. All right, so let's go into the link. All right, once you're logged into your portal, you want to go over here to illustrations. This video is primarily going to be about creating an illustration to show cash value numbers and so forth, specifically for NLG. So you want to go to illustrations. And then from here, you want to hit new illustration on the left side. Let's say they're in Arizona. And we are going to do Flex Life. Flex Life is the IUL product for NLG. There's also a Flex Life NL product. You do not want to click this one. The Flex Life NL product is only for if you're writing an application in New York, which in most cases you're not going to be writing an application in New York because every other carrier, we don't typically provide insurance in New York, but NLG is a carrier that does. You can do a policy in New York. It does require some additional, CE training, I believe. But if you do have New York clients, you can use NLG. But 99% of the time, you're going to be doing a regular Flex Life application. So click on Flex Life. And then from here, first name, we'll say sample, last name, client, and then gender, male. You can do the date of birth or you can just do the issue age, which I'll say is 50. And then for the rate class, there's a couple different rate classes you can choose from. I always do standard non-tobacco in most cases because what's going to happen is with NLG, you will submit an application with an illustration. And let's say you submitted it as standard non-tobacco. It does not matter because whenever NLG decides to come back and give you an approval, if that client gets an approval, they're going to say, hey, we're going to approve this client, but we're going to approve them at a preferred non-tobacco rating or a standard tobacco rating. And then at that point in time, You just submit a new revised illustration over to them with the correct rating. But in most cases, I tell the client, hey, I'm going to quote you at a standard non-tobacco rating. That is what 80 to 85% of my clients get approved at. But full transparency, just letting you know, Mr. or Mrs. Client, you may get a better rating or you may get a worse rating, meaning your premiums could fluctuate up or down based on the rating. But I'm going to quote you at standard non-tobacco. So do standard non-tobacco, and then all this other stuff I keep the same. And then let's go to death benefit and funding. So if we're gonna do, I keep this stuff up here the same as well. We will do a face type solve of none. And so we're gonna do a death benefit of $100,000. Oops, 1 second. $100,000 here. And we'll keep the death benefit level. Just so you guys know, level versus increasing. Level death benefit just means the death benefit stays the same forever, meaning in this case, it's going to be $100,000 year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and so forth. If we do increasing death benefit, that means every year the death benefit will gradually increase, meaning year 1 is $100,000, year 2 is $105,000, year 3, $110,000, something like that. But it gradually increases every month. Not necessarily in $5,000 increments. I'm just giving you an example, but it does increase every month or every year. Sorry. I typically do level though. So level death benefit. And then I change the premium mode to monthly. You can solve it as annual if you like, but in most cases I do monthly. And typically what I do here, one thing that's different about NLG is you have to make sure the client is funding their policy with enough premium so the policy does not lapse. Meaning, if we change this type, this premium type to, let's say, death benefit protection, and if we look over here on this left side column right here, the death benefit protection is 12/16/20 for the year. That's an annual. 12/16/20 for the year. If we go to quick view over here, the modal premium is how much they're paying per month, which is $101.35 per month. That $101.35 per month is $12.16 per year. So that's how much the client is paying into this policy for $100,000 of coverage. What you have to be careful of, though, is if we look at these cash value numbers and we look closely at this policy lapses in year 33 when the client is age 82, meaning $101 per month is not enough to suffice the cost of insurance for this client. So even though if we look at the surrender value numbers, the surrender value numbers do gradually increase. And then if you look closely, they begin to decrease as the years progress, and then ultimately bottoming out at zero and the policy lapsing, which, like I said, that means the policy, we're not paying enough into the policy for this, for the cost of insurance. So we have to increase the premium number. So if we go back to the death benefit and funding, $101 per month is not enough money. So with NLG, it's kind of like playing like a roundabout guessing game. So we know $101 means the policy is going to lapse. Let's do $120. If you look over here, one quick way to check to see if the policy is going to be good. If you look at the lapse year, this lapse year should say NA, but it says 41. What that means is this policy is going to lapse in 41 years because, once again, there's not enough money going into the policy for the cost of insurance. If you look at the quick view illustrations, it shows in year 41, this policy lapses. So that means we need to put in some more money, more than $120 per month for $100,000 of coverage. Oh, also real quick, make sure for the interest rates, we toggle the illustrate systemic allocation. Make sure that's clicked. If we go back to here, let's try $135 per month. If we look over here, the lapse year now says NA. So $135 is good. So anywhere between so $120 was too low. $135 is good. Let's try $127 to see what that brings out. $127. So if we look at the lapse year, it says it lapses in year 47. So that means $127 is not enough money. Let's do $130. Okay, cool. It looks like 130 is the sweet spot. So when the lapse year says NA, if we go and look at the quick view and we look at the numbers, if we look closely at the surrender value numbers, which remember, that's how much money you can borrow against the policy at any given time, the surrender value numbers gradually increase forever. They never go down, and the policy lasts until age 120, which every IUL policy should at least last till age 120. That's how you know there's enough premium going into the policy to take care of the cost of insurance. So we know in this case that $130 per month is the sweet spot on how much the client is going to have to pay per month to keep this policy in force forever, as well as build cash value. But just like Mutual of Omaha's no soft, the client can put in more than $130 per month if they want these cash value or these surrender value numbers to be good. So for example, if we look closely at $130 per month, the client can borrow in year 4 of this policy at $684. Let's change this premium to $200 per month and see what happens. If we go back to death benefit and funding, we do $200. Now, the client can borrow against the policy in year 2, and it's $681. So we've increased the premium, kept the death benefit the same, and now the cash value numbers are much better. But they're only required to put in $130 per month for the minimum premium. Now, if we look closely, we have the MEC premium, which is basically the Tamra 7 pay. That's how much, excuse me, that's how much the client can put in per year before they get taxed. And then we have the guideline single premium number at $43,000. One main difference between NLG and Mutual of Omaha is this guideline single premium number. Remember, in Mutual of Omaha, it's the most amount of money they can put in the first 14 years. In NLG, it's the most amount of money they can put in the first 16 years. So be mindful of that. It's 14 years in Mutual of Omaha, 16 years for NLG. But this MEC premium is the same. This is the most amount of money they can put in per year. So you want to make sure the planned premium number is never more than the MEC premium. The planned premium is just how much the client is actually putting into the policy, because remember, they're putting in $200 per month. The annual premium is $2,400. So as long as they're below this MEC premium of $7,600, the policy will not be taxed by the government. And as long as they're below this $43,000 in the first 16 years, it will not be taxed by the government, and it will not become a modified endowment contract. Now, you can actually go straight to an application from here by just hitting this iGoEapp submission, and it will take the illustration that you created for this client and it'll implement this into the NLG application. So that's basically it. Oh, actually, real quick, I do want to show you guys how to do a lump sum payment for NLG. So if the client says, hey, I want to put in $10,000 up front in this policy, we'll do $5,000 since the Tamara 7 pay is kind of low. If the client says, hey, I want to put in $5,000 into the policy, how do I go about doing that? You just go to this first year lump sum right here, and you put in the amount. So we'll do $5,000. And if we go over here to Quick View, and you look at the planned premium in year 1, you now see it increases by $5,000. And the total amount they're putting in is $7,400, because remember, this includes their monthly premiums as well. So that's how you do a lump sum payment in NLG. As well as, let's say if the client's like, hey, I only want to make payments of $200 per month for 10 years. If you come over here and you go to this one from through, if you do 1 through, let's say 1 through 10, boom. So years 1 through 10, they're going to be making $200 monthly payments. If you go to Quick View, it'll illustrate and show that. So in year 10, they stop making payments, and it shows that. Let's say the client says, hey, I want to do that, but then after year 10, I want to do $500 per month. You just add a row, specify amount, and then let's say they want to do $500 per month years 11 through 20. Do 11 through 20, change this to 500. And now if we look at quick view, it's going to show, oh, actually, nope. So it won't show that because remember, the most amount of money you can put into this policy is $43,000 in the first 16 years. It looks like we actually hit that in year 13. So if you look closely, it allows the client to put in $500 per month in years 11 and 12. Then it cuts them off at $2,000 because we've hit this guideline single premium number. And then the most they can put in per year after year 16 is now this this guideline level premium number. So in the first 7 years, it's this MEC premium number at 7,600. But after year 7, the 2737 is the most they can put in per year, which is why if you look closely right here, it's 2737. So be mindful of that. But I think that concludes everything I want to discuss about NLG. Once again, it is our Hail Mary IUL carrier. I really don't like them just because they take forever to approve people. Oh, one thing that is very beneficial for NLG. If you go to back to the homepage and you go to let's go to underwriting. And you go to the field underwriting guide and we look at details pertaining to, their IUL product, which remember is Flex Life. If we go to Flex Life, which is right here, Flex Life, it will show you how much coverage a client can get, depending on different circumstances. So a client under the age of 15 can actually get up to, $1 million, ages 50 and under, they can actually do up to $2 million of coverage, $3 million of coverage, no blood work, no urine work. So let me break down what we're looking at right here. So the A's right here stand for application. What that means is from ages 0 to 51, or actually 61 through 65, only an application is required for the client to get approved or declined or whatever the case may be. If it's a D, if you see a D here, that means the client is going to require blood work and an application to get approved. So if we look at anyone from the ages of 51 to 60 and they want anywhere between $1 to $2 million of coverage, they're going to be required to get blood work and urine work to get approved for that application. But anyone under the age of 50, if you look closely, only requires an application to get up to $2 million of coverage, actually $3 million down here. So I wanted to show you guys this because technically anyone under the age of 50 can get up to $3 million of coverage, no blood work, no urine work. So in some cases, if I have a client that's super healthy, they're younger than 50, and they're like, hey, I want to get $2 million of coverage, but I don't want to get blood work done or urine work done, I would do NLG because if a client is super healthy, NLG will approve them relatively quick. Every once in a while, every blue moon, NLG will sometimes give you an instantaneous approval. I've only had it happen to me one time out of the 100 applications I've submitted, but that guy was extremely healthy. They got approved instantaneously for $1 million of coverage right after I submitted the application. So that will happen every blue moon, but it's very rare. So that's why I kind of stay away from NLG. But it is beneficial if a client says, hey, I don't want to do any blood work and I want to get $3 million of coverage and I'm healthy and I'm 37. Cool. We can do NLG because Mutual of Omaha, remember, anything over $300,000 of coverage is going to require blood work, and their process takes just as long when it's a fully underwritten product, typically a month and a half. America doesn't even offer up to $3 million of coverage for their IUL. Same with Ethos. So NLG will be a good fit for that client if they wanted a crazy amount of coverage and they were young enough for it. But all right, that concludes our last training, our last video pertaining to the IUL Bootcamp. I hope this helps. Hopefully you guys will be quote unquote experts in the IUL realm. Just a quick recap. Remember, our top carriers, Americo, Mutual, Ethos, NLG for IULs. Ideally, you always want to go Americo first, then Mutual of Omaha, then Ethos, then NLG if the client has a chance of being approved. Now, if the client is extremely unhealthy, you might as well not even waste your time. Make sure you're using the underwriting grid sheets to adequately work up the client, because you do not want to waste your time submitting tons of applications, wasting hours, knowing damn well the client's never going to get an IUL. That's just a waste of your time and a waste of the client's time. At that point in time, just pivot to a whole life or a final expense policy and get that client protected on a cash value building policy or a term policy if that's what they're looking for. But you are a broker. It is your job to pivot accordingly. An IUL is not meant for everybody, just so you guys know. But everybody wants one because it does build cash value and it is a permanent coverage policy, almost in a sense an investment vehicle as well. But it is the hardest policy to get qualified for. I process a ton more declines than I do approvals when it comes to IUL. So an IUL is not always going to be the best fit for someone if they do have health complications. But use those underwriting grid sheets to, kind of figure that out as the broker. Hope that helps. Once again, if you guys do have questions, reach out to us directly or email us at support@beflinfluid.com. Excuse me.